Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today we're going to be talking about Sleeping Gods, particularly my 5 things that I love about this game. There's lots more than 5, but I really wanted to dig in what makes this game a 10 out of 10 for me and why I think it's the best exploration game possible. But let's go ahead and first off, what is Sleeping Gods? So Sleeping Gods has you playing as the crew of the Manticore. You're a ship that has wandered into the Wandering Sea. A giant storm has hit and now you're lost and you're trying to find your way back to our regular reality. So you're going to be doing this by exploring the map with your entire crew, and you have this boat that you'll be taking around and exploring, and the big thing you're trying to find are totems. And so totems are kind of these artifacts of power that'll give you special abilities, and really they're kind of like your objectives, your win conditions, but it's really based on the paths that you choose, what you're really going for. But base game here, you're trying to find those totems. So very straightforward premise, but the way that it's done is so well. Now the first thing I want to talk about here, the first thing that I love about this game is the narrative. So in this game, you're going to be doing a lot of encounters. So on this map here, you can see that there are lots of those little dots with numbers in them. Very straightforward. If your ship's there as one of your main actions, you can explore, you read the entry in this storybook. Now, I'm not going to go into any of the details here on what those passages are. No spoilers, spoiler free. But this being said, the passages are fantastic. The writing is great. The writing is well done. It breathes life into the different characters of the game, and each of these characters comes with their own backstory as well. And you'll see them and you'll get familiar with them and see how they interact with each other, and you really will start to get to know Raphael, Gregory. You'll know these characters that are part of your crew. It is so neat, it is so interesting, and I really like the writing in this. So the world itself of Sleeping Gods is just so fascinating. You'll explore, you'll learn lots of new things about the area, you'll get to see a look into different cultures, different societies that are around these islands, and how people in the north may differ from people from the south, the different people and the different ways and practices and how you interact and are involved in that world. So I really like this world, I like the story, and the coolest way that this is tracked is actually using these quest and adventure cards. So based on what you do, you may get a quest card that says that you've unlocked something, and this is really nice because it's just a constant reminder of, hey, I've done this thing, or hey, this event happened here. It's a good way to track progress where you're not going to be taking a bunch of notes and you may get lost. It's easy to reference them all and you can stack them on each other so that you have the keywords showing. You also in your adventures may find exploration or adventure cards, and these could be potentially items or other amazing things that might be available to you for the rest of the game. So I really like this system of you find a location, you read the story, you participate in these tests here, and then based on the results of that story, you're going to hopefully either complete quests or reveal adventure cards. It's just got this great reward system that's tied into this narrative, and the majority of these quests and adventure cards just make narrative sense, and I really like that. And the cherry on top of all of this is that there is a soundtrack for the game as well, and the soundtrack is so wonderful. The whole thing is composed and performed by Mallory Lockett, so that is the designer's wife. So amazing team here with this great game design paired with this wonderful soundtrack. It is so awesome. I love putting this on while playing, and it just sets the mood perfectly. Oh, I could talk about this narrative all day. So I love that. That's the first thing I love, is just the narrative as a whole, and got to include that music in there. And the second thing I really like is the turn structure. So I'll be a little bit quick on this one, but I really enjoy this. So the gameplay is separated into 3 phases, and each of those phases is going to be done on a player's turn. And when you end your turn, you'll pass the first player the captain token over, and then the next player does the same thing. So the first one is the ship action. This one's really straightforward. You're going to take this little worker here, and this shows where the captain is, and you'll put them into one of the areas, and that's really it. You draw cards based on this little number in the corner, and then you carry out the effects. So this generally is going to be getting you command, and these command are these octagonal blue tokens. You can use them to activate your cards. So you want to be getting a lot of command, but you also want to be managing that. So there's a bit of resource management up here. I really like this system. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's quick, and it gets things going. The next thing that you'll do is you'll draw an event card, and this is your timer. I love this system too because these events, they scale in difficulty. They start easy, start getting more medium difficulty, then very difficult. The events usually have tests that you'll have to complete, but usually some really cool benefits. So I really like this system. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it adds some agency and makes you really want to consider what characters you're building up so you can really take on what this event deck is going to throw at you. And generally there's some positives and negatives from completing them in general. The last thing that you're going to do is you'll take the action phase. In this action phase, you get to do two things. So it's very quick, this turn structure. You do a ship action at the top, You reveal your event card, perform the test usually, and then you go to the actions where you're either going to be moving, and you can do that multiple times. You can explore, so go to one of those circles, or you can go to the market or a port. So if your location has those, you can buy some new cards, or you could do some healing and leveling up. And so these actions are simple, but so well done. I really like this, that the complexity comes from the exploration, but everything else, this whole system that keeps it together, is so well done and so well thought out. So I really like this. I like how the system really plays well to jumping in and just giving it a go. And I like how that complexity is going to come from the tests themselves, the combat, and other things. Now, speaking of combat, that's my third favorite thing here, is the combat in the game. So I really enjoy this system. Every time that combat is initiated, you're drawing these cards, and I think these are from the prologue, so you should see these. But this one here, these are the Mythans, so there's some creatures, but you'll notice that they have this grid of spaces on them, and each of these spaces is going to have different symbols. So the hearts are their health, and that's how you actually kill them. But everything else are special abilities or extra attack damage, and every time you attack one of these, they are going to hit back for their attack value, plus any of these additional uncovered attacks. So it can be pretty nasty. So it might be worth it to just hit them. That way you're able to get rid of those bonuses. But in doing so, whenever you place damage, you have to place it adjacent to the damage that you started with. So by doing this, I may cover something, but then I may leave it, so it's very awkward to cover it in a future turn. So it's very puzzly when you do this, and you can also do some fun things where when you attack a character, you can do some spillover damage and hit the character that's next to it. So positioning matters as well. There's lots of really neat things here. And that being said, the characters themselves are also really cool. Now, every character has a built-in weapon on them. Like this character here has a wakizashi they can always use. This is the accuracy of your weapon, this is the damage that you deal, and this is a potential bonus. So if you have any skill cards, which we'll talk about later, you can discard those for extra damage. And this is your defense for the attack that you've received. So you have some things to think about. And on that monster itself, you have to hit whatever this number is. So 6 is a pretty high value if your attack is only 2, because what you're going to do when you attack is you'll reveal cards from the top of this ability card deck, and you'll add that number to it. It's basically a die. There's an equally distributed amount of cards from 1 to 6, and so with this attack, you'd have about a 50-50 shot at hitting this Myth in Chief. Now, even if you miss, you get to deal, I believe it's a single damage, but generally you're going to be wanting to hit for your full value here, the 3. So I really like this system here. I like that you are really pushing it, and I like that there are things that you can do during combat to give you extra accuracy. Like this one here says you can spend those command tokens to get extra accuracy. And another thing that I really like is that whenever you deal damage, if you land on one of these little diamonds here, you're actually going to be able to give your synergy token to another crew member. And that's so neat. I love this because you can stack them onto characters, you can do a lot of fun combo moves, and you can build up for one really powerful attack. So these are things that you can spend. Like here, this character says that if she has her synergy token on someone else, they can use it for an extra damage, which is very small and minute, but if you keep stacking those, it can be very powerful. I really like this because after you do complete destroy a character, it's removed, and so it's easy to track your success. And I do really like that you have to manage your health because you want your characters to survive, particularly if they have good weapons or different skills that you want to be using. This is just really neat. I really like how involved this combat is while still being relatively simple, but I really like this system. It's very puzzly, but very fun. A great time. So that's the combat, my third favorite thing I really like about this game. And then my fourth thing that I love about this game are those ability cards. So as I said, they kind of serve as the dice in the game, but they also have other functions. So the big thing here is they can be discarded in your hand for bonuses to whatever that skill test is. They can also be used by paying this command cost in the corner to upgrade your characters. So your characters have slots down here. They can carry 2 of these skill cards, but these skill cards will give that symbol to that character, so whenever they do tests, they have bonus for that test. So it's really cool that you can stack a bunch on characters and make them very strong at particular stats. So I really like that. But the other cool thing about this is if you use the cards as an upgrade here, you get a special ability, and that card is no longer in the discard pile or the deck. So when you attach these, you have a big choice there. Do I attach a card that has a 6 in the corner onto my character because its ability is really good, or do I just discard it for a temporary bonus, But if I do that, it'll go back in the discard pile, and then when I reshuffle the deck, I'll have more chances to get better numbers as I play. So it's kind of awesome. You can really customize your characters here. Now that being said, at the end of each event deck, these will all get discarded, so you do have to do some timing with that. But based on how many tests that you're doing and the different exploration actions you're doing, you should be able to time it in a way that you'll be able to make your ability deck a bit stronger. So I like that you can manipulate the odds there, as well as getting these cool buffs and powers. So that's really fun. I really like the ability card system. And then the last thing that I really enjoy this game, and I really can't talk too much about this, are the item and adventure cards. As we talked earlier, in the narrative, you're going to be finding items and adventure cards, and these things are going to offer you ways to spend your command for special abilities. Now, at the start of the game, this is one of the cards that you may get. It's the gear card. Very simple. You put a command token on here, and you get to reflip a card when you're doing a test. Very straightforward. There's also some starting characters that let you draw ability cards and starting characters that let you do some healing, some recipes. I love these cards. So the game has you start off with 4 of them, I believe, and every time you play, you always start with those 4, but as you play, based on the adventures you do, the things you buy from the market, you're going to get more and more of these cards, and these cards are just so fun. And I love that this game, the rest of the game is so straightforward and pretty simplistic that every time you get one of these cards, it's going to add a little bit of complexity, something that you need to remember, and I love that as you play, you're going to remember every single card you get, because each card has a story tied around it. Maybe that you found this fighting this specific person. You found this in this cave in the back room. You found this in that chest after you stole from a person you really shouldn't have stolen from. And that's going to kind of carry with you. I really like this, how every time you get a new card, you evaluate it, you look at what it does, and you say, okay, I can use it for this. And every time you do something, you can quickly look at all your cards because you've learned them incrementally and say, oh, I can use this for this, I can use for this, oh, I remember I have this. It's very awesome how the game naturally grows, and at the start you have 4 items, and at the end you might have like 30 or something ridiculous, but you know what each of those cards does because you've kind of played the game and learned the game and went through the game with them and kind of evolved with them throughout your story. I love this system. I love these cards. I love how different they are, but also how familiar and how just they make sense in the context of the rest of the game mechanics and the rest of the world. I think it's so well done, and this is a game that I just want to continue exploring and try these different combinations of these cards and see what else is out there for me to find. So that's my 5th favorite thing about this, the item and adventure cards. And those are my 5 things that I love about Sleeping Gods. If you have heard me talk about this game before, you'll know that I'm very passionate about it. I think that it is the best adventure game. The way that it simplifies this turn structure without bogging anything down. It takes a large campaign game and puts it into a small setting, relatively small. But I really just enjoy everything about this. The creativity, the world. It is absolutely wonderful. If you have not played Sleeping Gods and you enjoy any cooperative or solo gaming, this is the game to try. It is so well done. I'm so impressed. Ryan Lockett, you knocked it out of the park. This is a masterpiece. That is Sleeping Gods. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.